It all started because the manager's son had sex with a Thai prostitute.
He was certainly better at heading a football than he was at writing crime fiction.
He wants to fight someone. He doesn't care who.
Where are you? Where are you? Let's be having you.
I swear you'll never hear anything like this ever again. So download it, subscribe to the podcast. Welcome to the Midtable Up Podcast. This week we're doing our 10 greatest Premier League moments. I'm glad you think so, Matt, because I'm not going to lie, I've been sitting on that intro for about a week and a half at this point, so I'm really glad I got to use it. My first...
Now we're going to rip it off for every other episode.
Basically, yes, that's exactly what we're going to do.
Yep.
My first co-host joining me today is a man whose greatest moment of his life is pretty much whenever he's with somebody else's pet. It's Matthew Lee. You right, Matthew?
Oh, man. Absolutely. Please invite me round to come see your animals, or send animals into us.
Send us your pets.
Any
definitely.
of the above, really.
They can become a star on the podcast.
Yeah. Send your kitty
any
cats,
animals welcome.
your dogs in, your squirrels.
Are we gonna,
any
I was going to say,
any
we're going to have to
animal. If you've
rank
got a hamster,
pets at some point in
a
this
lizard.
podcast now.
Oh, that would be cracking.
Well, anyone knows that
I'd be
dogs
better
are
than that in
winners,
football.
and every other option is wrong.
I mean, that's true. I'll agree with you on that, Simon.
Absolutely.
Of course, so my second co-host joining us today is a man whose greatest moment was when he was intimidated by Roy Keane in person. It's Simon Bartlett. You're
I
right,
forgot
Simon.
I told you that story. I didn't know you know that story.
Did you not? Oh no, I love that story. I think it's great.
It is great. It's one of my favourite. It's one of my best stories. Well, I'll tell it now if you want to hear it.
Yeah, no, please do. I think our listeners would want to hear this great story. The time you met Roy Keane.
Yeah. So basically, it's when he was Ipswich Town manager, and I'd won the junior journalist competition, doing an
fancy.
article. Yeah, for the East Anglia derby, I had to write a match report of the game, and I won. And my reward was I got to cover one of the pre-season games from the press box, and afterwards go to the press conference with Roy Keane, and the PR
That's
lady
a really
pushed
good
me
reward,
to the front.
to be fair.
Yeah, it was a good prize. And obviously now I'm in the press box a lot more often, so it was a little gateway into my future. But
definitely.
Yeah, so the PR lady kind of pushed me to the front and was like, "Oh, Roy, can we get a picture? You know, it's the guy who's won the competition." And Roy Keane just straight up mugged me off. He said to me, do you want to be a journalist? I was like 13 at the time, so I just said, yeah, I was a bit intimidated by Roy Keane. And he's like, oh, no, not another one. I was like, oh, he's completely done me. Completely mugged me off. Got mugged off by Roy Keane.
I can't imagine having my potential
What a
future
legend.
prospects judged by Roy Keane, to be honest. That would definitely scare the shit out of me.
But what was amazing was all the journalists were clearly dead frightened of him. Like, he walked into the room and everyone just went dead silent. It was incredible. Everyone's
that's
like,
brilliant.
Don't say anything. It's Roy Keane. He's gonna completely mug you off. Just don't say anything. Just ignore it. It's be fine.
Oh, I love it.
He definitely had
His
an
presence
imposing...
was crazy. Like, it was
I
just
imagine,
like he walked in.
I imagine he gives off such an intimidating aura that if I was in the same room as him, I don't think I'd feel comfortable at all.
I wasn't comfortable with him. I can tell you that for nothing.
Yeah, I just feel like the slightest thing would maybe upset him. Who knows? And well, especially if it's like modern day footballer shtick, I feel like he doesn't need any helping hand in that department. But of course, before we get into our lists, I am your final host, George Ellis, and my greatest moment occurred at a bus stop in York, and we're gonna leave it at that.
I don't know how you could drop that bomb and run away from it.
That is a weapon.
It's a weapon.
Just thrown out there.
It's the biggest weapon.
It is, but to be fair, that can come back and haunt me at my best man speech one day. So, we'll cross that. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So, going into our lists, Matt, would you like to kick us off with your number 10 spot? Who's finishing in mid-table for you?
So today we're talking about the best Premier League moments. So this is a bit of a difficult one, I think, because when you look at Premier League moments, you know, what is it to you that's important? Is it something very personal and close to your club? Is it something that's funny? Is it something that's sad? Or kind of a mix of everything. So we've got a bit of a mix of everything, and I thought I'd start the list off strong in mid-table with a bit of shithousery.
That's a great way to start the list.
And it's kind of linked to absolutely, and because shithousery to me is a very
it's fundamental,
part
mate.
of football, and I think it sets for me it sets what's British football apart. And when I say British football, I mean football, you know, up and down the pyramid, and that, anyway. So the number 10 spot for me is a Mr. Kieran Dyer and Mr. Lee Bowyer.
I love it.
When they were playing for Newcastle, they decided, when they went 3-0 down and got a man sent off, that the best approach was to have each other out and had a fight in the middle of the pitch, which got them both sent off. And possibly one of the weirdest sending offs ever, because you saw two players of the same team fighting, which you don't see often. So that's my number 10.
No, that's really true. That's a funny number 10. I did consider it because, like you, I wanted to put a mix of my own, but that is a great. They ended up with 8 players left on the field that game, and then they both got huge fines.
Wasn't Graham Souness the manager there at that point as well? Like, I can't think of a worse manager to do that under than Graham Souness. Like, I bet he had such a go at them, like, training Monday morning. Like, you see how he goes at Paul Pogba, like...
Oh, definitely.
Could you imagine the bollocking? It must have been immense.
Well, like, I mean, to be fair to Graham Souness, he's sitting there thinking, like, oh, fuck me, man. I'm missing 3 players for the next game. And 2 of them are because they were fighting with each other. It was obviously a bad defeat, 3-0 to Aston Villa, to end the game with 8 players. So, yeah, no, that's pretty... Yeah, no, that's a pretty juicy Premier League moment there to kick things off. Definitely. Simon, who's your number 10? What are we going for in terms of mid-table?
My number 10 is probably the worst prediction in Premier League history. On the opening day of this...
What, not Matt's prediction of winning Spurs?
It's not that one.
I was going to say, it's not
it's
that,
Alan
is it?
Hansen, who confidently, on the opening day of the season, said, "You don't win anything with kids." And of course, you do, because they did. They won it all. They won the title.
Yeah, they did. They won everything.
And obviously, some of those kids were pretty special in the end, to be honest with you. So...
you
might not win anything with kids, but you might do if the kids are that good. So that for me is my number 10. Probably the worst call.
Definitely, to be fair, that's such an iconic moment. To be fair, and of course, as you said, the careers that some of those players went on to have. You're talking your David Beckhams, your Gary Nevilles, your Paul Scholes, Ryan Giggs. And to think 3 years later they were winning the treble. It's certainly one of the most iconic moments of British punditry ever, really, to be honest with you. So, yeah, I do think Alan Hansen's awful prediction of you'll never win anything with kids, that's a great opener as well, in my mind. So, for my number 10, I have gone with something a little bit funny, basically. It's kind of hilarious, and it's also now in this age of VAR. It's basically impossible. We will probably never see this happen again, although given how badly VAR is, anything can happen, I suppose.
Give it a go.
But I've gone with, at my number 10 spot, the Sunderland goal against Liverpool that bounces in off the beach ball.
I knew that was coming.
It's just because it was a Liverpool fan that threw the beach ball onto the pitch. And then for it Darren Bent to take that shot and for it to deflect off the beach ball past Pepe Reina into the net. It's just hilarious, to be honest with you.
The best thing was Pepe Reina tried to save the beach ball rather than the real ball. Like he was diving the complete wrong way for the real ball and was looking to save the beach ball.
Oh, it was hilarious.
What are the rules on that?
It should have been a dead ball.
But yeah, and basically there can't be more than one ball in play at a time. So every now and again you'll see, like the ball will go out for a throw, and then the ball boys will throw back 2 balls at once, and one will go on the pitch as the player goes to take the throw and then they basically have to retake it. But yeah, this wasn't even like an extra Premier League ball. It was a beach ball thrown on there by a Liverpool fan who looked about 10 years old at the time. But you couldn't see his face or anything like that. And the funny thing was, I remember watching Match of the Day that night, and they actually had to censor the kid's face because they were worried that he would get loads of abuse, which he would have done. So that was the right decision, really.
It also led to one of the greatest answers on The Chase ever seen. Do you remember?
Oh my God! Yes,
there was a question about it, wasn't there? And the answers were like beach ball. I can't remember something else.
I do. This is the thing. All right, so
and she chose the ice cream van. She thought the ball had been deflected in off an ice cream van. Like, it's madness. I mean, a beach ball was crazy enough, but obviously it didn't go in off the ice cream van, did it? Come on.
I know. To be fair, I don't even think that would count if you were playing football in the street outside your house. You wouldn't count that, would you, if it went in off a fucking ice cream van? But yeah,
I think it would have to go to VAR.
Well, but it's just the fact she thought you could get an ice cream van on the pitch in a Premier League stadium that the ball could deflect.
Honestly, like that moment for me is so good because it then leads to a moment on a completely different television show years down the line. Yeah, you are right, Simon. I had a look at this earlier, and the options for to answer the question were: it was A, a beach ball; it was B, an ice cream van, as you said, and C, a sunbathing German. Funnily enough, the woman that answered the question did not go for the sunbathing German. She went for the ice cream van, and that is just another iconic bit of British TV history there. So you almost get 2 in 1 for that moment. So yeah, that's my number 10. Right then, Matt, what are you going for? Who makes your 9th place?
My 9th place. This one it shouldn't be controversial because it's just a cracker of a moment. But it might be controversial for being too low, but I'm not sure. Is Rooney's 2011 goal in the Manchester derby. Firstly, it's one of probably the most iconic goals in Premier League history. It was, there were 12 minutes to go, an overhead kick, and it was also in a really heated Manchester derby because it was just a City. United had been comfortable in that derby for a while over the past years, and it was kind of one of the first years where City could really kind of equal bench them.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
kind of go odds to odds with them. They'd kind of developed a squad at that point through money to get to the point where they could compete. And Rooney's goal was just sublime and scenes.
Yeah, I do agree. That was an incredible goal. You're right. It was kind of just around. It was the year before City won the title, obviously, and it was just them finally beginning to emerge as a powerhouse, and that was Man United still basically making the statement of you're not there yet, and that goal from Rooney. I think at his highest point he was like 10 feet in the air, which is just unbelievable athleticism. So yeah, it's a brilliant goal. And a great moment for sure. So you've got no arguments for me on that one. So I think that's a great pick. Simon, your number 9. Who makes your number 9?
Just gonna say on that Rooney one, he definitely shins it. We've had this discussion before.
He does shin it, but I still don't think that takes away from the brilliance of it. I still think it's fantastic. I think it's a brilliant goal.
It's still a fantastic goal, but that always it's like. I love the perfect goal, and it for me because it's not perfect. It actually makes me more annoyed. It's like it's so good, but it could have been so much better if he just got it off the right place.
I think so much better. I think come on, it's hard to because especially where that ball ended
it's
up.
Obviously a great goal, but that for me it's just a personal thing. I mean, I've always told you that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it's always been a mental block.
Yeah, you've been dying on that hill for years, definitely.
I have been dying on that hill for years. I was trying to keep quiet as you were talking because I was like, I don't want to ruin your flow, but I'm like, that's been
fair. That's fair, definitely.
Anyway,
right,
my number 9.
So number 9, yeah.
So my number 9 involves Ipswich's nearest and not so dearest rivals, Norwich City.
Oh, I think I know where this is going already.
A certain Delia Smith charging onto the pitch at half-time, screaming to the Norwich faithful, "Where are you? Where are you?
Let's be having you!
Let's be having you!" Yeah. I mean, honestly, just watching that from afar, you just can't help but laugh. It's the most
brilliant.
ridiculous thing you've ever seen. I mean, there's 30,000... I mean, we've all been at football stadiums when a side is in trouble, looking like they're going to be relegated, everything's flat. The worst thing you could have is a person coming out from the, board owners coming onto the pitch and being like, why aren't you passionate enough? What are you doing? I'd just be like, go home.
No,
what are you doing? Go back to your ivory tower and just sit there. I don't want to hear from you right now. I'm thoroughly depressed.
It is hilarious because, of course, you've got to feel like the board plays a direct part in the club being in the trouble that it's in. You know, regardless of whether you think the board have signed who they should sign or not. At the end of the day, if you are bottom of the table, if you're facing relegation, that boils down to more than just the manager and the squad. There's some serious things going on behind the scenes that need to be addressed as well for me. And then just to have the owner come out and get on the fans' back and say, let's be having you, where are you? It's unbelievably hilarious, to be fair. I feel like that one is definitely sweeter for you being a club rival, Simon, but it's a definite iconic Premier League moment that is unbelievable. And to be fair, you can't imagine any owners doing that, really, can you? Like if Karen Brady or David Sullivan and Gold.
I was thinking, how would West Ham fans react if the owners came down on the pitch and was like, "Where's the noise? What are you doing?"
Can you imagine if Mike Ashley did that at Newcastle? It would be absolute chaos. They'd be hurling their JD Sports mugs at his forehead, wouldn't they? Oh my god!
They'd probably do that anyway. They wouldn't need any help from him to do that.
To be fair, they don't need they don't need an invitation to do that. To be honest with you, so I think Delia's halftime rant is definitely worthy of a spot in your top 10 greatest Premier League moments. So for my 9th spot, I felt like I had to include this guy in there somewhere because he was involved in a few big moments. I have gone for the moment where Paolo Di Canio catches the ball against Everton. So, the game's 1-1. There's about 10 minutes to go in the game, and obviously the goalkeeper goes down injured. And to be fair, he does something which I really feel like nobody else would do, to be honest with you. If I was in that position, I would have nodded that ball into the back of the net and not thought twice about it. But it's crossed in, and then the next thing we know, he catches the ball and lets the goalkeeper receive treatment, which is a very it's a good show of sportsmanship. And he won the FIFA Fair Play Award for that the next year. I don't know if they made that award specifically for that action and have since carried it on. But it's really funny because at the end of the game, Harry Redknapp, who was manager at the time, was rightly fuming. And when he was interviewed about it, he pretended that, Paolo Di Canio had done the right thing and had, caught the ball. Great sportsmanship. We're really proud of him. When actually he's since admitted in interviews that he was fuming inside. And Stuart Pearce had to be basically restrained from seeing him because he wanted to rip his head off. As I said, a great moment. As I said, I feel like Paolo Di Canio was involved in a couple. It narrowly beat out him pushing over the referee when he played for Sheffield Wednesday. That was just unbelievable. And also his incredible goal against Wimbledon, one of the best Premier League goals of all time. It narrowly beat that out, but I just thought the fair play, it's something you really don't see that too often, and I don't really feel like you're ever going to see that kind of thing again, to be fair.
Yeah, it was an incredible moment. I remember seeing it. Well, I can't remember when it was. It must have been early 2000s.
It was 2000. It was 2000. Yeah. Yeah.
So we obviously were very young, but obviously seen it back since, and you just think, because did he get yellow carded for it? I don't recall.
I don't think he did
because presumably it's a deliberate yellow card. I think he just caught the ball, and then the referee just stopped the play and allowed the medical team. I think nowadays he probably would get booked for it because obviously the laws of the game are that's deliberate handball. Like, I'm not saying that's right, but I reckon that is how it would be judged today.
Yeah,
so that's probably why you wouldn't see someone doing that anymore.
Common sense isn't allowed to prevail in this day and age in football, is it? So yeah, you're probably right there. But no, and obviously the Everton fans then rightly applauded him after the game as he went off, which is a nice gesture from them. And yeah, he won the FIFA Fair Play Award a year later for his actions. So
and thoroughly deserved, you'd have to say.
Yeah, as I said, if it was me, and I'm pretty sure if it was all three of us, we'd be nodding that ball in the back of the net without a second thought, to be honest. Unless we thought the goalkeeper was, seriously injured,
Yeah.
Like dying. If he was dying, then maybe we'd think twice. We'd
Death.
probably still
There
put
would
it
have
in,
to
but
be
we'd
blood.
think about it.
Yeah. No, if there was like
tears.
blood pouring out of his head, I think I'd nod it in and then
might be
get over,
acceptable.
but yeah.
I think, and on an excellent segue, that leads nicely to my number 8, because my number 8 is that goal against Wimbledon by Pablo Di
Oh, brilliant.
You've already kind of said it. It's a banger.
It is an incredible goal. It is, isn't it?
And I think what makes it more amazing is it's just how you don't really see anything like it, or obviously we see loads of great goals, loads of scorpion kick goals and all sorts of different things, but no one's done that sort of bicycle volley as I
agree, actually
imitated as much. So I think it definitely deserves.
No, I completely agree,
and we're very biased.
No, of course, of course, I take your point in that regards, but I do agree in the sense of obviously we talked about Rooney's overhead kick earlier, which is obviously an outstanding goal. But then you've got, as you said, you've got other overhead kicks a little bit like that. Like you think of Bow in the Champions League final, and obviously Andy Carroll against Palace. You do see, but that bicycle, and as you said, you do get the odd scorpion kick here and there. But that bicycle kick, especially in the Premier League, I really can't think of anyone scoring a goal like that since. And that was 19 years ago now. So
the only other one I'd say was close was kind of Robin van Persie. He scored a couple of volleys, I remember, which were sort of but obviously as a left footer, the angle was better, and that's because obviously the issue with this one was he was right-footed on the left, so he has to cut across the ball with his right foot, which is an insanely difficult skill on the ball coming over towards his left side. So that's what I'm thinking. Van Persie's hit similar shots, but off his stronger foot with a better angle. That's what makes this one so intelligent and such a good finish.
It was certainly a great goal. So that's another fine moment in my opinion. So your number 8 then, Simon, what have you gone for?
My number 8 is also a great goal, and probably a title-winning goal from a couple of years ago. From centre-back, Vincent Kompany unleashing a 30-yard thunderbolt, kissing the crossbar to beat Leicester City and all but guarantee City being champions that season. I mean, it was just the most incredible goal from a centre-back.
It was phenomenal, wasn't it? It was phenomenal.
Because City were struggling. They hadn't created too much. Leicester were defending so resolutely. And then out of nowhere, Kompany just steps forward the ball. Guardiola's like, what's he doing? He's not going to hit this, is he? Like, you can see him heading his hands, like, what is he doing? And then it goes in and he just starts celebrating. And you're just like... And it was such a great moment for Vincent Kompany, because obviously it was his last season, and to score that goal, capping off a magnificent career, and basically winning them the title. It was a beautiful football moment all around, and I think that's why it's my number 8.
No, definitely.
Absolutely.
Because as you said, like, when he lined up to take that shot, I think the whole world was thinking, what are you doing? Don't hit that, mate. Don't hit. Not from there. Not from there.
The three of us were in the pub watching it, weren't we? And we were doing that. We were all together going, he's not going to hit that, is he? He is! Yeah. Oh my god! Oh my god! He scored! Oh my god!
Dude, and that was unbelievable.
And the thing is, it was a mad week of football as well, because Liverpool then beat Barcelona in the league and in the Champions League, and Tottenham beat Ajax. So it was a mad week of football, but that bit still sticks in my head. You're like, Vincent Kompany's whacked in a 30-yard thunderbolt to win City the title, all but. And what a goal what a player he was.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
He definitely deserves to be on this list.
Yeah, no, that was an incredible moment. So my number 8, again, I don't know if either of you would have included this or whether you'd have included it a little bit higher. But I have gone for the Eric Cantona Kung Fu kick on the Crystal Palace fan. Just because, for me, it almost typifies everything about Eric Cantona, and of course he wasn't done in the Premier League at that point. You know, the next season they went on and won the Premier League and FA Cup double. It's just one of those things that you look back now, and even 25 years on from the incident, it's still, no matter how many times you watch it, it's just as vicious watching it again as it was the first time you watch it.
It was crazy.
You know, it was crazy. It was so bad that he got 120 hours community service and a 9-month ban, which is just...
Both of which were deserved, let's be frank.
Oh, of course.
That was ridiculous. I mean...
It was unbelievable.
You talk about a maverick of the game. I mean... He always had a hot streak, didn't he? I mean, he was not one who was ever going to be a shrinking violet and just let a game drift. But it was just... I don't even know what happened. Like, what caused his fuse to flip against a fan?
I've heard rumours that the fan basically told him to go back to France or something. That's what I've heard. But I'm not sure.
I mean, that's hardly grounds for a kung fu kick to the face with a stud.
No.
Do you know what's funny? If you rewatch it now as well, because this is on my list.
Oh, okay.
So we might as well talk about it now. If you go back and rewatch it, you can tell he wants to fight someone.
I know.
He doesn't care who.
Isn't it?
He's out here trying to fight someone. Derek Cantona, mate, he doesn't give a shit. Here we go. I've got it.
Yeah, such a crazy moment, and I think the thing that I also really liked about it was that afterwards it led to this great quote, which is when the seagulls follow the trawler, it is because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. And to this day, people are still trying to decipher the meaning behind that quote, like who's who in that analogy and what's what. It just kind of sums up how enigmatic the guy was, to be honest with you. And even now, even when he shows up on a Cronenberg 1664 advert, I still feel like I have to pay attention because it's Eric Cantona. So yeah, that's my number 8. That's number 8 for me.
It's just nuts. Like, you don't, like, he went for him. He fully went for him. I've got the score. So apparently, so some context. Apparently, they were the defending champions at the time, and they were 2 points behind the leaders, who were Blackburn in 1995. And
they lost the title season.
They lost the title that season. And I'm sure part of it was because Cantona
was banned for 9 months.
That's not going to help your title chances, is it? Your best player being banned for 9 months.
But absolute nutter. But what a character.
Yeah, what a player. What a player. I did consider him for my top 10 Premier League's greatest list. I think he only really missed out on because of the length of time he played in the Premier League. Whereas if you were going on ability alone, he probably would have made my list in that regard. But yeah, okay then. So moving on, number 7. What are you going for, Matt?
I feel like I'm like really skimping out on this podcast because everyone's talking for me. My number 7 was Vincent Kompany.
Wow,
it's the Vincent Kompany goal against. It's just, it sticks so much out of my mind. It's such a banger of a goal, and so we've kind of said what we need to say on that one. But,
I mean, to be fair,
let's keep it moving.
Yeah, now that you've said that, I'm glad that that's not on my list. As good as a moment as it was. Okay, right then. So Simon, your number 7.
My number 7 has also been discussed briefly before, and that was the Dyer v Bowyer incident.
Oh, was it? Oh, great stuff.
You just love it. I always love a scrap on the pitch. Scrap on the pitch between two teammates, even better. I'm all for it. Let's go right now. You don't see it anymore. There's not enough scraps in the game anymore. No one's fighting. They all get split up before anything happens.
Yeah.
Let the players fight. That's what I say.
Well, it definitely makes it more entertaining. It's just again, especially if you're fans of that club, you don't want to see your teammates fighting as much as you want to see the passion.
Yeah, but George, I was a neutral. Let the players fight. Let them fight.
Simon has the ice hockey method
definitely.
of improving football.
There's not nearly enough fights in
If it's
football.
not going your way, knock the shit out of them, basically.
It's fully part of the game in ice hockey, though.
Yeah, it
Have you
is.
seen-
Yeah.
Have you seen in the NHL, which is basically like the hockey version of FIFA? There's like it's a mini game in the game. Halfway through the game, you can just take the gloves off and start scrapping.
So halfway through the game,
and they've got like this fight. It's a fighting game.
So halfway through the game, it turns into WWE SmackDown versus Raw. I do think that's
Yeah.
kind of brilliant.
I love how they coded it. They were
Yeah.
like, "What is quintessential about our sport?" Or the fight halfway through, and then they can come on 10 minutes.
And what's amazing about that is the people who love it are the mild-mannered Canadians, and then you get them on an ice hockey pitch, and they're just fighting each other all over the
Shit out of
place.
each other.
That's how they get their frustrations out, you know. They're mild-mannered in real life. They're, you know, when they're on the ice rink, that's where their anger can, you know, be properly managed and exuberated from their being. Okay, so
Absolutely.
my number 7. So I wanted to include at least one, you know, post-match interview kind of thing, because we've seen there's been some real gold in the Premier League over the last 28 years. So a couple that were probably a little bit unlucky to miss out on this spot. Jose Mourinho's "I am the special one." That's that's very
That's
iconic.
iconic.
And the other one was Rafa Benitez "Facts." Again, you know, just an absolute incredible meltdown. But in terms of meltdowns, I think I have gone with, at my number 7, the biggest one of all time, and that is, I'll tell you something, they've got to go to Middlesbrough and get something, and I'll tell you now, I will love it if we beat them. Love it. So I've gone with Kevin Keegan's "Love It" rant, because it is just so brilliant, and for me, it sums up that season so well. Obviously, Newcastle was so far ahead of United going into the second half of the season. But if you watch back some interviews of Manchester United players talking about that year, nearly all of them say that they were confident that Newcastle were going to bottle it. And obviously, Fergie, in the build-up to that game, obviously Fergie kind of questioned whether Leeds specifically and teams in general would play out of their skin against Newcastle United in the way that they play out of their skin against Manchester United, and you know, rightly so. That got under Kevin Keegan's skin, and obviously ultimately Newcastle did bottle that title. Man United won it in the end, and it's a great example of what was Fergie's tactical, mental mind games that he did so well over the course of his career. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Weren't Newcastle like 12 points top at Christmas or something?
Yeah.
They were like massively far in front.
They were 12 points clear at Christmas, and then obviously Manchester United made back that lead over the second half of the season.
And there was also, I don't know if someone maybe has this in their list, so I maybe won't cover it too much, but that 4-4 draw at Liverpool, or the 4-3 defeat at Liverpool, where Collymore scores that last minute winner.
Oh yeah,
Collymore closing end.
Yeah, that's also a brilliant moment for what.
So I don't know if anyone has that, so I don't want to talk about it too much necessarily. But, I also have the "I would love it" rant. That was my number 5 on my list as well.
Oh, was it? Okay.
It's just gold, and you watch it all the time. Like sometimes I'll just see it and just like I'll listen to it again because it's just funny. It's just great to listen to it. I would love it if we beat them. I would love it.
Honestly, I just think it gives you an example of everything that what football is about in terms of the passion. And as I said, it just gives you so much insight into the mentality of that Manchester United team, and you know, the mentality of Newcastle as well. As you said, you know, to be 12 points clear, everyone thought that, and I think that season they actually beat Manchester. It might have been a year or two later, but I'm pretty sure it was around that time. They might have even beaten Manchester United 5-0 at one point. It was certainly in the late 90s. I might be mixing up my seasons there, but Newcastle did beat Manchester United 5-0 around the tail end of the 90s. And just for me, as I say, it just sums it up, to be honest with you, how you know how gutting football can be sometimes, and how desperately you can want to beat your rival. And as I said, you know, it's for me, it's the tip of the iceberg of Fergie's mind games that he so successfully used throughout his entire career. But it's just, as I said, it's just an absolute great rant, basically, as you said, I can go back and watch that whenever. It's absolutely great viewing all the time. So that was my number 7. Obviously, you said that was your number 5, Simon. So going into number 6, so we're beginning to move into those Europa League spots now. Matt, who is your number 6?
Mine is going to trigger some people, and good. Mine is, the slip. Steven Gerrard's slip. It's up there, man. It's a cracker.
It is up there.
It didn't make my list, but I definitely thought about it.
Same. I'm with you on that. I was the same, Simon.
He slipped, and they lost the league, and it was it was even more ironic that 2 weeks after, he told everyone that they should make sure that the title doesn't let it slip.
Yeah, that was just before, wasn't it, when they beat City 3-2?
Oh, sorry, yeah, before.
Yeah, just before. They were like, we don't let this slip. But no, it's definitely a great moment. I do. It's so. Yeah, it's almost surreal watching that back, especially now with Liverpool being so good. But at that point, you genuinely did think they're never going to win the title again. To be honest,
it did feel cursed at that point, didn't it?
It did, didn't it? Like you did feel like if they couldn't win it that year, then when were they ever going to win it again? That was what it felt like.
And one of their greatest players is the one who's gifted the title up, and that's why I think for me it's a moment that is not. I always feel a little bit sad. I mean, as you say, it will trigger some people, but when I watch it, I'm like, because I love Steven Gerrard as a footballer and as an England player and all these other areas, I feel so gutted for him every time I see it. It's so bad. There's nobody near him. All he needs to do is just pass the ball forward. There's no pressure on him, no pressure on the ball, and he just falls. And it is twinged with a little bit of sadness for me.
But the thing is as well, because they didn't even need to win that game, either Liverpool, a draw would have seen them fine, and then obviously they would have gone into the Palace game afterwards, because it basically, that slip pretty much also triggered the next result against Palace, because having lost that game to Chelsea, Liverpool were then like, well, the only way we can win this now is on goal difference, and City had like 10 better goal difference than them, so they went 3-0 up against Palace, and were then still, throwing everything at Palace, because that they were like, we need to put 5, 6, 7 past this lot in order to have any hope of winning the title on the last day of the season, really. And then obviously they completely capitulated from there, drew 3-3, and that was the final now in the coffin. But yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that moment was such a catalyst, not only for the 2 fixtures after that, but also, I feel like we almost wouldn't be here without that moment. As I said, we all thought that.
Were you conceived because of that slip?
Yeah,
George, is that what you're telling us?
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. Awesome. Oh, yeah. Obviously, Gerrard slipped, and then that's how I was born. In 2014.
This is how COVID happened. It's because Gerrard slipped in that one game.
It's because Gerrard. Yeah. Do you know what I think I find so interesting about it? And Simon, you're right. It is a bit sadistic to like it, but fuck Liverpool. The thing that's so
you really are like triggering fans, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing that I like so much about it is that it's almost like the great leveler, because if he was out of position, or I don't know how to twist it, if it was something down to him as a player, you could blame it on him, but it wasn't. It was just a little bit of unlucky, and players slip and fall all the time.
Yeah,
we see it regularly, and it was just
a shame.
Like it was just the universe just wanted to make him slip at that exact moment. I mean, he probably looked back at it and thought, all of the thousands of times I could have slipped, I could have fell over.
But all the thousands of times he probably did, and it didn't make any difference. And the one time it counted was this one.
Exactly. So it's just such an interesting example of, you can be the best player and do what you need to do on the day and have the best positioning and do all these great things. But ultimately, you always need a little bit of luck in football to get
a little bit. I mean, that kind of slipped for me, even though obviously that was the big moment that really decided it. Looking back on that season now, to be fair, as we said before, that it felt like if they were going to win it, it was going to be that year. But even then, that title surge was mainly on the basis of Suarez and Sturridge goals. You know, both those two were unbelievable that year. Suarez in particular, and obviously after the World Cup, he ended up going to Barcelona. But yeah, no, it was just that whole year. You know, they had Mignolet in goal, and defensively they were weak, and they were susceptible to making mistakes all over the pitch anyway. And yeah, it was just so kind of strange that the one that was the ultimate downfall was from arguably the greatest Liverpool player of all time. I mean, again, that's very debatable, but certainly of the modern era, the greatest
He's certainly up there of all time, isn't he?
Yeah,
let's be honest.
I feel like if he doesn't make your top three, I feel like you've done it wrong. I will say that. But for that to not be, you know, for that to be the moment that ultimately derailed them, yeah, for me that it was huge, and that's a worthy number 6 in my mind. So, Simon, what is your number 6? Who's making your Europa League?
So the Europa League spot, and I think I'm not sure if they made Europa League this season or the year after, but it was the most incredible comeback I've probably seen in the Premier League years. Newcastle 4, Arsenal 4, from 4-0 down at the break. To come back and draw that game was just absolute madness.
I remember actually. So that 4-all comeback was the season before they finished 5th. Yeah, it was the 2010-11 season, but
I thought it was the year before. Brilliant. But
yeah.
But the one thing that gets me when I watch it back now is just how poor a lot of the players who scored it. Leon Best got 1, Joey Barton got 2, and in fairness, the last goal obviously by the late Sheikh Tiote, which is obviously incredibly sad. He was a very, very talented midfield player. What a goal that was, to be fair.
It was
dipping volley from 25 yards in the corner. And that almost was the catalyst for Arsenal's downfall. And if you look at it, I think... I know they hadn't won the title in a few years before that, but they really... The defensive weaknesses after that point seemed to just get worse and worse. And it seemed to be exposed by Newcastle.
It was hilarious. I mean, I think Arsenal did have a man sent off, didn't they, in that game as well?
But you're up 4-0. I mean,
I know,
on.
I know. I'm just throwing that out there. But yeah, no, I do agree. Obviously, 4-0 at half time. The hilarious thing was that I think within about 20 minutes of that game, there were Newcastle fans that had already left. And can you imagine leaving the game after quarter of an hour, and then, you know, when you get home or whatever,
I'll just check the score.
Yeah, it's 4-all. Like that. Could you imagine that? And yeah, as you said, the players that did score in that game, they weren't particularly great, you know, at all. You know, Tiote, that was the only goal he scored for Newcastle, and it was an absolute screamer. He should have had 2 goals for Newcastle, but one was wrongly chalked off a few years later. But, you know, to be fair, if you're only going to have one that makes it 4-all from 4-0 down. You know, that's a great one. It was
just an incredible game, and it's one of those that makes you realise that you never give it up. As you say, fans never leave the ground, no matter how dark it gets. There's always a chance. We've seen it before, and we'll see it again.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, definitely. That was a brilliant. That was a great game, great moment for sure. So, going into my number 6, it is one that we've already discussed already. So again, I won't spend too much time on it. It was just I went for Rooney's overhead kick as breaking into my Europa League spot, just because. Again, I in my opinion, I do think that's the best Premier League goal ever scored. But again, you know, we can have that debate on another podcast. But that was what I went with for number 6. So, who is just missing out on that Champions League spot there, Matt? Who's coming in at number 5 for you?
My number 5 is probably going to irritate another group of fans. I'm just here making enemies.
Nothing new there then.
No, nothing new there.
there.
Normally it's after you had a few drinks, but people are going to be like, oh, he's a prick even when you're sober. But yeah, go on, mate.
It's very true. My number 5 is Adebayor. Rubbing it into the Arsenal fans. It's a little bit of shithousery, and we love it.
It's absolute great
that is fantastic, actually. I had completely forgotten about that until you just mentioned it.
No, I had considered it, but I didn't know if it was big enough. But I had considered it.
Oh, I love
It's
it.
just
I love that.
everything I love about football. It's so great. So, for those who don't know, I don't know where you've been, but essentially, he left Arsenal to go to Manchester City. And, obviously City at the time was really just buying up everyone like a monopoly board. He scored the third goal in their 4-2 victory. And when he scored the goal, he sprinted the length of the pitch. So he scored on one side, he sprinted the length of the pitch to the away fans, and then slid up in front of them and revealed a T-shirt that said something like "Why is it always me?" or something like that.
That's Balotelli.
That was Balotelli, mate.
I saw he did. Did he have a T-shirt on? I thought he just did a knee slide.
He
didn't.
He just did it. Yeah. Adebayor just did the knee slide in front of the Arsenal fans, and it was.
Oh, was it that?
It was hilarious.
It was up there with the best moments of shithousery you'll ever see. He should have been sent off in that game as well because he stood on Robin van Persie.
Oh, he did, didn't he? Yeah.
He was clearly angry about something. I mean,
well, no. The thing that annoys me about that is because I think he got banned retrospectively, but I don't think it was for the stomp. I think it was for the celebration. And the thing that really annoys me about that is because obviously, as you said, he was really angry. He was angry because all the Arsenal fans were giving him stick for leaving for City. They were all like money grabber, and they were just giving him abuse the whole game. And for me, if you're going to give someone abuse, for 90 minutes on a football pitch, that's your own prerogative at the end of the day.
You deserve everything you get.
Yeah. So then, if that player then turns round, scores a goal, for me, he's got every single right to celebrate in front of you. I don't care who the fans are. The amount of times that we would sing at West Ham, big fat Frank Lampard, which would always be kind of ironic because he would be undoubtedly healthier than every single fan in that stadium. Let's be honest.
And half of our squad.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, and then of course he'd score a penalty or he'd score from open play, and then the fans would just be like boo, whatever, blah blah blah, and I'd kind of be like, well, of course he's going to celebrate. We've just spent the last best part of an hour and a half calling him a fat bastard. Why would he not be rubbing it in our faces now that he scored? And for me, I think the Adebayor thing, I think it's the exact same thing. The Arsenal fans...
I think that's also a mark of a good player as well, one who takes that negative energy
and channels it into something positive.
Into a moment where he's going to score. He's like, I'm going to score to shut this lot up, and then I'm going to celebrate in front of them because, frankly, they deserve it, and I want to. Fair enough.
Yeah, as
that's
I said,
your right.
I do think it's a bit shit that he got a post-match ban for that because I'm like, well, they've given him stick all game. Now he's scored a goal. You're honestly saying he's not allowed to give them a little bit back. I get, you don't want to incite the crowd to the point of where, they might run on the pitch or throw things but I'm like, come on, if you can't wind someone up after, receiving the best part of an hour and a half worth of abuse, then who can you wind up at the end of the day? So,
exactly.
So yeah, no, I think that's a great shout for number 5, another great moment. So who just misses out on Champions League for you then, Simon? Who is your number 5?
Yeah, so as I said before, mine was the I would love it rant. Was my number 5.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, no, that's cool. We went over that before. So my number 5, I've gone with a game here, and I was basically tossing up a few different ideas because obviously, there's hundreds of, incredible games with incredible scores in the 28-year history of the Premier League. But the one that I settled on was Man United 8, Arsenal 2. Just because that score in itself is unbelievable, let's be real. But the thing that really signified it for me, or the thing that really, makes it stick in my mind, was the fact that this was the moment where you kind of felt that the Man United-Arsenal game was no longer a title rivalry. Like Arsenal hadn't won the title since 2004 by that point anyway, obviously. But so that was really that moment where, even Fergie couldn't lord it up afterwards because it was such a hammering. That was the moment really when that kind of basically killed that fixture as being a potential title decider, despite the fact, that Arsenal still went on to get 4th spot nearly every year for the next 5 years after that. It just, and for me, that was really probably not quite the beginning, but that was really when questions began to get asked about, Arsene Wenger. is he the right man to take this forward, and where is the direction that the Arsenal Football Club is going? I think it's such a, as I said, that I was also considering the Man United 6-1 game. I was considering
that was the same season, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the same season. That for me is why part of the reason why the 2011-2012 season is the most entertaining season ever. But yeah, that 8-2, it was just unbelievable. You could, the events unfolded. Obviously, Cole Jenkinson got sent off for Arsenal in that game. But as I said, for me, it just absolutely, that was the final nail in the coffin for me. That fixture was no longer a title decider, for sure.
Sorry, I was going to say, it was a fantastic game. The other thing that sticks in my mind, was that the game Wenger got sent to the stands as well?
No, that was I think that was a couple of years. I think that was a couple of years before that game.
Okay.
But,
the other thing I was going to say about that game was Rooney's free kicks were unbelievable.
Oh,
He'd stick
they were
one side,
weren't they?
and then completely did Chesney on the other side with the eyes. It was fantastic.
Well,
he did it one way, and then the other. Fantastic.
Because Rooney got a hat-trick that game, and as you said, two of them were free kicks, and they were two sublime free kicks. Ashley Young also scored from outside the box, and it was just, the goals were incredible. Cole Jenkinson got sent off. David De Gea saved the Van Persie penalty. It was just, that game had everything. And as I said, for me, what it kind of signified, not only then and there, but also potentially in the future of Arsenal's football club, but also, at that point, they'd barely made any signings that season. And it was about a week before the window was going to shut. And they went out and panic bought Per Mertesacker and Andre Santos at left back. Purely on the basis,
I haven't heard in years.
God, no, honestly. Purely on the basis of that 8-2 defeat, they went out and bought those players. So you almost got to think that in some ways, at least in the short term that season, that loss might have done Arsenal a bit of a favour, because they might not have gotten to, fourth spot had they not made those signings. They might have signed someone else as well in that window, but I'm not too sure. But
for me, didn't sign Mikel Arteta, did they?
They did. That was it. Yes, that was it. That was the other signing they made that year. They went out and they probably paid over the odds for a then aging Arteta. Like, he wasn't quite over the hill, but he was nearly there.
He must have been the wrong side of 30, I think. By that point.
Yeah, I think he definitely was. But yeah, they went out and brought Mikel Arteta as well. And again,
long-term investment. Get him in as manager.
I know. As I said, that game is still having an impact on Arsenal Football Club today for me. And as I said, it was an incredible game. So yeah, that was my number 5 spot. So Champions League spot time, 4th place, Matt. Who are you going for?
We've already done it. Kung Fu Kick, Eric Cantona.
Okay. Yeah. Again,
banger.
Solid choice. I completely get why you had yours higher than mine. I did debate it. It's just, an incredible, iconic moment. Okay, then. So, Simon, your first Champions League spot. Who's making 4th place for you?
My 4th place is based on a fixture we were just discussing, but a different game. It was the Man United Arsenal game in the Invincible season, where Ruud van Nistelrooy misses the penalty.
Oh my God, I love it.
In the final minute of the game. They draw 0-0, and Martin Keown goes up and celebrates in his face for a good 5 minutes.
Incredible.
And then there is a good scrap after that as well, I'm fairly sure. It's just, as you say, you talk about it by the point of the 8-2, it was not box office viewing, it wasn't a title fixture anymore. This was the crux. This was where the league was going to be won and lost. Man United, Arsenal unbeaten, United behind them, chasing them all the way. And it was a great game. I mean, you'd say it's not, because it was 0-0, like very little happened. But that last 5 minutes, just everything went crazy. You put your life on Van Nistelrooy scoring a penalty. He doesn't miss many. And then obviously,
smacks the
Martin
bar.
Keown's reaction is just fantastic. Great bit of football shithousery.
I think Keown's reaction is kind of what football is almost about in a way. That passion, he was screaming in his face after that miss. But yeah, as you said, it was really at the height of that Arsenal United rivalry, and it was just, as you said, it's kind of weird how had that goal went in, how differently that Arsenal team would have been perceived, whether they would have even went on and won the league that year. Just incredible moment. Absolutely brilliant. I did think about that for mine, actually, to be fair, because I remember watching that game when we must have been about what I want to say around 6, 7 at that point.
Yeah, I'd say 6 or 7, 7 or 8, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we would have been around, and that is still, despite being that young, that is still one of those games that has just. I remember watching it on Sky Sports, and it has stuck with me purely because of that drama at the end of the game, that penalty miss. And it's something I always enjoy watching back because it was just so brilliant, and you like to see that kind of passion from Martin Keown, of course, but then it just said, you just wouldn't have thought Van Nistelrooy would have missed either. It was a great moment, to be fair. Brilliant Premier League moment. So for my fourth spot, right, I've gone with another kind of, well, I say this, it's somewhat linked to West Ham. I've gone with Blackburn's Premier League win in 1995. So obviously they went into that final day of the season, and if Blackburn beat Liverpool, they would be champions, and that's that. However, Blackburn were playing Liverpool, and Man United, who were their title contenders, were playing West Ham, and Liverpool turned over Blackburn that day. And then all Man United then had to do was beat West Ham to win the league. But they didn't. We held them to a 1-1 draw. And to this day, West Ham fans still sing about Ludo McCloskey for being an absolute monster in goal that day. That song, I've heard it for years and years and years. And I'll tell you a funny story. So on the last day at Upton Park, obviously they bring back all the legends to watch the last game. And, I took the day off work and was like, I want to make the most of it. It's going to be the last time I'm here to see a game. And then all the players were turning up early. So, I met players like Dean Ashton, Tony Cottee. I've got a whole list of players signed my shirts. And then there was one guy who initially I didn't recognise. And, normally I kind of know all the West Ham legends by face, even the ones that were before my time. And I was thinking, who is that guy? And then someone's gone, Ludo over here. Can I have a picture with you, Ludo? And in my head, I've just gone, Ludo McCloskey, the guy that I've been singing about my entire life. That's the guy. And yeah, as I said, it was an incredible moment because that whole game, Man United were basically peppering us, and they really should have, with Blackburn, bottling it at Liverpool. They really should have beaten us and won the title that year, but we held them to a 1-1. Blackburn won their only Premier League title in their history. Alan Shearer won his only Premier League title in history, and it was almost, like Chelsea winning the title, before they really got going. Obviously that year Blackburn kind of pumped a lot of money into the club. They got, obviously Alan Sutton playing with Shearer, and it was just. Yeah, it was probably nice that someone other than Man United won the title for a change, but that was my fourth spot. As I said, I just think it was a great moment, an almost upset that really doesn't happen. That that West Ham was so involved with a title decider, and a title decider for a team that has not won it since, or been anywhere near winning it since. So yeah, that for me is my number 4 spot.
Yeah,
I don't know if you
absolutely. No. I did. It's an amazing moment in football.
Cool. Right. So, automatic Champions League spots then. Number 3, Matt. Who are you going?
So we're getting close now, and there's only so many. And like I said, a moment's kind of hard to define. Is it?
Yeah.
Is it just one thing? So I've pretty much you've given it to a game, so I'm just going to give it to a season. And I'm giving it to Arsenal's invincible season for number 3. I think that 2000.
That's a good shout.
That 2003, 2004, but not just that's it. The kind of legacy of that group of people. Some of the players they had in there. We could talk about that invincible season. A lot of draws, but the players they had, they were the first team to ever to do it in the Premier League. They're
The
still
only
the only
team.
team to have ever done it.
They were the first team to do it in about 100 years as well.
Yeah,
the
last team to do it was in in the English top flight was like in the 1800s or something ridiculous like that.
Well,
So-
I mean, because I know how Simon feels on this, and we will definitely get into that, because I get what you're saying. Obviously, the 12 draws is the only thing that you can kind of go, that's not that great. And obviously, there's been a good fair few teams that got more points than what Arsenal did that season. But from a unique point of view, the fact that they're the only team in the last over 100 years to do that, it is kind of sublime. And obviously, they will always, have that to hold on to. And, anytime any team looks good, obviously last year, how many sighs of relief was there when Watford beat Liverpool 3-0 and ended their chances of an invincible season? Arsenal fans were rejoicing globally, and fair enough, because that season is their season.
Pride and joy.
I feel like I just want to let Simon discuss his thoughts on the Invincibles, because it's an interesting take.
It is an interesting take. Look, they're a great side. There's great players in that side. The only reason why I'd say I think they focus too much on the Invincibles' nature. That year, Porto won the Champions League, and Arsenal only won the Premier League title. And obviously, going on a league season unbeaten is incredible. It's an amazing feat. Yes, 12 draws. Yes, they could have lost games here and there and probably should have done away at Old Trafford various other times. I think there was a game at Portsmouth where they were behind for a long part of that game as well. But the issue for me is why they're probably not lauded as much as they maybe should be, is that they only won the one trophy. They
didn't do anything else.
Yeah. In years later, you remember the United treble side of '99 is much more revered than that Arsenal Invincible side, and that's because they won 3 trophies. They won it all. They got the sweep of every trophy you want to win. And yeah, as I say, going unbeaten in a season is incredible. Never been done before. Well, been done way back, but not been done since, and probably won't be beaten. Possibly in our lifetimes, you'd have to say, as an achievement. But I think they did it to their own detriment in the end. I think they overplayed some of their starters in games that they didn't need to, and then that stopped them winning other trophies that they should have won.
Yeah, no, because as you said, obviously, Jose Mourinho's Porto won the Champions League that year, and that Arsenal side were far superior to that Porto team that won the Champions League.
And Monaco made the final. It was Porto-Monaco in the final. You're telling me Arsenal couldn't have made that final? It wasn't there for their taking, really.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that argument.
That's my only point with them. They're a great side, but that for me is the issue. The only issue.
Yeah, no, I think as well, because the thing for me that I also kind of think of, outside of the extra trophies, because if you're talking Premier League alone, then, as I said, the teams have won the league, like City getting 100 points, Liverpool obviously getting, the 90-something points they got last season, Chelsea 95 points in the 04-05 season, and they only conceded 15 goals all season.
I mean, that side should have gone unbeaten. You talk about teams that
they should have
so
done.
close. They lost
didn't,
one, didn't they?
When if you were going to rank Premier League sides based purely on the Premier League, not factoring other trophies they might have won that in said seasons, then me personally, and again I don't know if you agree, I would personally put, say, 100 points. I would say that's more of an achievement than going the whole season without losing a game when you've drawn 12 games.
I would definitely say that. I think Arsenal
that's where I stand anyway.
Crack the top 5 in terms of greatest. You look at the points total in terms of where it stands. You've obviously got City twice, Liverpool twice. So in terms of points totals, they're probably about 8. They're probably only just in the top 10.
City, that year, obviously City got 100 points in 2018, and then in 2019 they got 98 points. Liverpool finished second with 97 that year. And although they got no reward to show for that, obviously they won the Champions League that year, but domestically they got nothing that year, Liverpool. I almost feel like 97 points, again, I almost feel like that's more of an achievement than just not losing a game when you've drawn 12 games.
This has always been my argument as well. Part of they are a little bit, it's just a fantastic achievement, little bit overrated as it goes. I mean,
Yeah.
You talk to Arsenal fans, they say they're the greatest side in the Premier League. I don't see that. They're a good, very, very good side. You don't go unbeaten in a league season without being a very good side. But as you say, they could have achieved maybe a little bit more to be in that upper echelon.
So yeah, as I said, I feel like Arsenal fans are now just probably going to furiously launch whatever device they're listening to at the wall.
Switch off. This is not worth listening to.
Yeah, they'll be like, these cunts don't know what they're talking about, basically. All right then. So your number 3 then, Simon. Who takes your automatic Champions League spot?
Well, my pick for automatic Champions League spot came in a game which was absolutely nowhere near being the automatic Champions League spot. This was a relegation dogfight where West Brom pulled themselves out of the mire on the final day of the season. The first team to be bottom at Christmas to stay up in, I think it was
I did consider a great escape moment.
05 or 06. It was incredible.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, you see the fans on the pitch. It's what football's all about. It's a moment where it's not a huge club celebrating a moment that all they did was stay in the league. Look, they didn't win anything. But you can see the emotion of the fans, of the players, everyone together on the field, and just the whole elation of the day of, yes, we've done it, we've stayed up, we've achieved their goal. Let's be honest, that was their goal at the start of the season.
Oh, of course it was.
And it's just great. They'd gone an incredible run. They were bottom by quite some distance. And I think Tony Mowbray was the boss, and he kind of changed the formation, went a bit more direct, played a bit more pragmatically, and pulled them out of trouble. And as I say, it was beautiful sunshine. I can remember watching it on Soccer Saturday, and just the guys going absolutely crazy that they'd done this. And you see all the fans on the pitch, everyone's just having a great time. And that's what football's all about for me, and that's why I've gone for that moment.
No, definitely. I do think, because as you said, they were the only team to be bottom at Christmas and then survive at the end of the season. And I do feel like that achievement really shouldn't be underestimated. Again, I almost feel like we could definitely do a list of great escapes, to be fair, because there's normally at least one nearly every year, and there's a great lot. But yeah, as you said, to be bottom at Christmas and then survive, it is an incredible feat. And as you said, it was what they would have been hoping to achieve at the start of the season, just retain Premier League status, and they did that, and they did it in the most dramatic fashion. I did consider putting a great escape in there, but again, I feel like I got too, not carried away, but too excited with league title wins and big wins and just random shithouse moments or whatever. But no, I do think that's a great shout for a top 10 Premier League moment list. So for my number 3, my automatic Champions League spot, I have gone for Steve Bruce's title winner for Manchester United in 1993. So that was the beginning of Fergie time. That was they'd won the FA Cup obviously a few years before that, and that had kept Fergie in his job. But this was really the start, not only of the Manchester United dominance under Fergie, like the beginning of the 13 titles he won, but also it was the beginning of Fergie time. It was the beginning of, Manchester United grafting out results and getting over the line for titles. And I just think it was such a big moment. It was the first big moment for what was ultimately, the biggest managerial career in Premier League history, and it was the beginning of what led to an empire, basically an empire of success under Sir Alex Ferguson. They ruled England domestically for the next 20 years. 13 league titles when he retired 20 years after that. You can't. That's just unbelievable domination, and that was really, for me, that was the moment that won them their first title, and it set them on their way to win a further 12 under Sir Alex Ferguson. So yeah, for me, I've gone with Steve Bruce's late winner just to secure them their first Premier League title. That's what I've gone with for my number 3.
Yeah, it's a great moment. I love it because you see Ferguson. I think is it Mike Phelan as well, dancing on the touchline, just going absolutely ballistic.
I think it is. Yeah, as you said, you see him dancing on the touchline. It's great. it's great stuff, and it leads to that empire. Basically, it's a brilliant moment.
Yeah, I think a perfectly justifiable choice in there. I can't believe it came from Steve Bruce, though.
I know,
all the players
people,
it could have been Steve Bruce.
Steve Bruce
couldn't do anything with a football pitch, but by God, he could edit.
Oh, mate.
That's about the only thing he was any good at, to be honest. But
well, he was certainly better at heading a football than he was writing crime fiction. Let's be honest.
That is true. That's very true.
No, I feel like we're going to have to do something with those books at some point because they're just gold.
I think maybe just read them out online.
Yeah,
live radio. I think people will enjoy that.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right then. Now we're getting into the runner-up spots. Matt, who takes your second place? Who just narrowly misses out on that Premier League crown?
So for me, we've already spoken about it a lot on this pod. It's the Aguero goal. I think.
What, number 2?
That's my number 2. Yeah.
That is controversial,
mate. Honestly, I have. What is your number 1 then? Jesus.
I think I can tell you what his number 1 is because I think he was there
I think
when
you
it
can
happened.
both tell me what my number 1 is.
Okay.
So that's
it
my
only
number
has to be
2.
one
It
other
narrowly
thing than
misses
number
it.
1, surely.
Yeah,
and it will be that thing.
Well,
yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's not a 1-0 win the other week. Absolutely not.
No, not quite.
It's not quite. I mean,
I can tell you now though that is my
then,
number 1. Just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, So it's a banger. It's a basic goal. I think we've spoken about it a lot. For me, I was rewatching it before the podcast. The best part of it wasn't really the goal. It was the reaction of the Manchester United players.
Oh, it's fantastic.
when they cut, and obviously it's all done. It wasn't like that live. But when they cut to the reaction from Manchester United, it's brilliant.
Well, they thought they'd won it. You just see it in their faces. They're still celebrating.
They basically had
going
won
on.
it.
It's incredible.
They basically had won it, hadn't they? And I mean, because obviously for City on the other end, you talk about the Man United fan reaction. I love watching the City reaction before the Dzeko equaliser as well.
Yeah, the guy just crying.
Understandably, the whole stadium is in bits. They're absolutely distraught. They all look like they're attending the funeral of their dearest loved one. They are in absolute bits, and they're thinking, same old City. We've mucked it up again. How have we let this slip? QPR. They went 1-0 up against QPR. Their Joey Barton got sent off as well, and then they find themselves 2-1 down with added time. You can't make it up. I mean, I'm gonna go with Simon on this and just say this is also my number 1 as well.
It's just the most unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just incredible.
I just wish I could have been in and around it when it was happening. Can you imagine being in that stand? The roar you must have heard, the emotion in the stadium. It must have been an unbelievable experience. I've heard Mika Richards talk about it since, and he said he was drunk for the whole of the next week. That's just what you should have done. I mean, completely. Fair enough, Mika. I would be the same. Exactly the same.
Definitely. But I mean, Mancini's reaction to that goal was it's just unbelievable. The whole stadium erupts. We've spoken about this before when we spoke about Balotelli, but the only assist he ever got in the Premier League for Manchester City, the title-winning assist, perfectly sums up the kind of character he was at Manchester City. And I did the Martin Tyler commentary to kick things off because I just thought it just makes the moment that Sergio Aguero. It's just unbelievable. It's for me, my number 1. Simon's number 1, definitely.
Matt's number 2.
So then I can assume that your number 1 will be what mine and Simon's number 2 is then, moving into...
I don't know what it is.
I would assume so.
Yes.
But my number 2, I'll jump in, was the Leicester title win.
That was my number 2 also.
15-16.
Yeah.
And let me just come in with a bit of a disclaimer on why it was number 2 and not number 1, because obviously Leicester winning the league is obviously far more unlikely than kind of any last minute goal to seal the league for City. But obviously by the end of the season you knew that Leicester were going to win the league. They just had to they just had to get over the line, and obviously the Chelsea drawing against Spurs was what sealed that in the end. So it's probably the most incredible thing to happen in the Premier League, but it's almost not a moment. I mean, obviously them lifting the title is a moment in itself, but that for me was probably the only reason why it didn't make number one for me. So yeah, I mean, but yeah, let's talk about Leicester winning the title that year, because it was just incredible. At what point did you guys kind of go, this could happen? They could win the league. Oh, was it? Yeah, was it really March?
March, yeah.
Yeah, no. Before that, I'm just thinking they're going to fall away eventually. There's no way they're going to keep this up. What I love about this, though, is it all started because the manager's son had sex with a Thai prostitute in the season before.
Yeah.
This is how this story begins. Nigel Pearson's son has sex with a Thai prostitute.
Yeah.
That loses Nigel Pearson his job, because he would have stayed in that job. He kept them up the year before.
Definitely.
They'd gone on a ridiculous run to stay up the year before as well.
Oh, they had
Let's
to
not
be
remember
fair.
that. They were in title-winning form at the end of the season before. And they just seem to carry that forward. Then Ranieri comes in, dilly ding, dilly dong, pizzas for clean sheets. Everyone's enjoying themselves. What a season!
Do you think they would have won that title if Nigel Pearson was still the manager that season? No.
No.
God, no. I mean,
Do you reckon they would have got
on.
N'Golo Kante if Nigel Pearson was the manager that season?
no.
No.
No. Do you know? I think the reason why, for me, Leicester's number one, and it is so close. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm almost splitting hairs here.
Yeah.
For me, and I appreciate it was because it happened when I was there.
Yeah,
So
and I appreciate
for
that.
me,
If I was there, I think you would have it higher, because it's that
obviously
feeling of belonging and being
you
around
were
it.
you were at uni.
winning the league.
Yeah, you were at uni in Leicester. I can imagine the whole city was just bouncing.
Well, you felt the tension as it got close.
Yeah.
Because it was getting quite close to, it was getting quite close to the winning, and you could feel the sort of tension, and it was always one of those things you couldn't really. No one spoke to each other. No one came up to me and said, "Oh, I'm fucking nervous for tonight." But you could kind of cut it with a knife, and
I bet.
And then when it happened, the city was crazy. It was not. I was out for it's one of those moments where you kind of almost remember where you were.
Yeah, definitely.
I was out for dinner, and it happened. And the way I knew it was happened is because obviously I was a good guy, wasn't on my phone in the middle of a dinner. The staff started cheering, and it was like a Tuesday night or something,
great.
and we were the only people in the restaurant
Because everyone else was watching the Chelsea game.
On?
Yeah, they would have been.
And it was just scenes. It was crazy. There was people on buses. There was it was crazy.
No, I mean, because obviously you talk about the tension, obviously in the kind of build up to it. Because again, until there was that moment where it was mathematical, there would have still been people going, they are going to fall away. I feel like. Yeah, I was probably around the same as you guys. Probably around March was probably when I went, yeah, this could seriously happen now. They're not just going to fall away and maybe get top 4. They could potentially win this title. But for me, the thing that really kind of sticks out was when you were seeing people that had obviously, for a laugh at the beginning of the season, or even before the season had kicked off, had put a tenner on Leicester to win the league. And then it gets to April, and then these people are cashing out for 27 grand because they don't want to risk potentially, them not winning that and getting, to get such a high payout, 5,000 to 1 odds, and to be able to cash out in April and get upwards of 20 grand. Incredible. Mental.
Incredible.
That for me was the moment really as well, when people were really beginning to go, shit, this could actually happen.
I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. There was always a bit of me that didn't think it was going to happen. Even when they got quite close, there was always a bit when it got really close and it was just one game, one result, 1 or 2 results that had to go their way. I thought it's probably going to happen, but in the build-up, I was still very much, it's not going to happen. They've had a great run, but they're going to fuck it up. Because the depth of that squad in a lot of their positions wasn't fantastic. If Jamie Vardy got injured, they were fucked.
Well, I was just going to mention Jamie Vardy, because that was also the year he broke the Premier League record for consecutive goals. Like 13 games in a row he scored. Amazing. What a player.
Oh, brilliant player, Jamie Vardy, obviously. I mean, that year, it was kind of... They were almost dragged there by, 3, maybe 4 players, that being N'Golo Kante, Vardy, and Mahrez. And then, of course, defensively... Wes Morgan was an absolute unit that year. A lot partnered alongside Robert Hoof, and obviously Kasper Schmeichel is a great goalkeeper. So they had a great spine, and then on obviously at the wing they had Mahrez, and but again outside of that, you got they had Danny Simpson at left back.
Right back, wasn't he? Christian Fuchs.
Oh, right back. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, right back. Nathan Dyer as well.
Mark Albrighton must have played in that side as well.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Mark Albrighton. I like Mark Albrighton, but
he's fine, but he's not a title winner, is he? Let's be honest. Well, he is now, but he doesn't look like it.
But no, to think that he has more Premier League winners' medals than Steven Gerrard, it's bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. Danny Simpson couldn't get a game for Newcastle before he made that move to Leicester. Definitely one of the greatest things of the Premier League, that's for sure.
And it was just such a fairy tale, and I think that's what because sport and football is all about drama, and that was kind of the almost quintessential essence of anything can happen. It's a fairy tale.
Definitely.
I remember, because obviously I'm not a Leicester fan, but I remember I went to, nearer the time, I used to go get my hair cut, and all they would want to talk about was Leicester winning the league. It was just the hot topic. Wicked place, wicked city, and an amazing way to end a Premier League season.
That's the final whistle. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Midtable and Up podcast. If you enjoy our top 10 lists, please make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. Let us know what you would have done differently. If you watch this episode on YouTube, make sure to put your foot through that subscribe button and leave a like on the video, as well as follow us on Spotify and the podcasts app to keep up to date with the series. Thank you very much. See you next time.